that. He really helps a lot of the people on the border. I understand he was down at the border, and so we want to hear about what he's got to offer about what's going on our southern border. Randy, welcome.
All right. It's good to see you all, and it's good to be here. I don't know if I've talked before the Democrat.
Last March.
Last March, okay. It is good to be here. A lot of people think that I moved here to work on the border, and that is entirely not true. The immigration stuff was happening, but I had no idea about the immigration stuff. I did have a love of Latin America, and that's what I really moved here. My wife and I wanted to be as close to the U.S.-Mexico border because we like the food, and we like the culture, we like the language, and we like to sit on the beach. So that was a big thing for us to be closer. Can everybody hear me?
No.
No. I'll turn it up.
Or move it up.
Could be better.
Yeah.
We get too much light on the big mic, and that's what happens. If that doesn't work, then look at that.
How's that? Is that better?
Better?
All right.
Closer.
At any rate, I've been doing a lot of border stuff for probably the last 23 years, and so I'm just going to give. I have a bunch of slides I want to show of even things that happened yesterday, but the first 8 slides won't work, so I'll just kind of walk you through this. The title of my talk is "When the Border is Your Backyard," and we all we like to think that the United States is a nation of immigrants, right? Isn't that what we learned in high school civics class? I don't know if they'll let people say that anymore in class. But, and we all know the Statue of Liberty, and on the Statue of Liberty, Ezra Lazarus's poem, "Give me your tired, your weak, your huddled masses yearning to be free." What a great line in a poem. But in reality, the United States has actually, in the past 30 years, the U.S. has desecrated that poem and the Statue of Liberty. The wall construction actually began in 1993. That was a year before the free trade agreements were signed. And so the U.S. knew that there would be unprecedented immigration that was going to happen. They had been talking to trade ministers in Mexico and beyond. They even had meetings here in the Tucson area. And we knew there was going to be unprecedented immigration that was going to be happening. So they started to build the walls in 1993. And once there were walls, you needed more agents to guard the walls. And before long, you needed more agents. You needed checkpoints. You needed, I don't know what that is, drones and helicopters to observe from the sky. There's one of the U.S. Custom and Border Protection drones that are up even over our community, if you didn't know that. This was a big blimp that hung over for about 9 months over Nogales, Arizona, and they had plans to be putting those up all along the border. There's more technology. There's one of the remote cameras and radars and all kinds of equipment that is put up. This is part of the virtual fence that goes through Arivaca and all through the mountains out there. This is the command center in Tucson, where they watch all of the activity that's happening along the border. National Guard, we know that even more, actually military have been sent down there lately. And so our borderlands is now a militarized zone. This is actually downtown Nogales. Isn't that welcoming? They actually, when you come back into the country, there's a welcome to the United States, and it's all wrapped in barbed wire. Yeah. I'll show you just a bunch of different pictures of the different parts of the wall here. This is right down east of Sasabay. This is over in Texas. Just the environmental damage that has. This is down Fresno Peak in east of Sasabe. You know, these cactus, saguaro cactus, are over 100 years old, and they were just desecrated. This is out in Lukeville. This pile of steel is just if you know the Robinson Ranch down along the wall. It wasn't high enough. This was an Obama era wall, and it was taken down to put up 30-foot high walls. Just beautiful, beautiful country, and now it just looks like a snake out there. This is west of Sasabe, and they had left all these gaps, and I was out there last week and took a picture. They filled in 3 of the gaps. I think there's 34 gaps out there that they still have to get to. So it's a never-ending crisis at the border. And I've been down here for 25 years. Many of you have been down here longer. But over the past 30 years, we've had 5 U.S. presidents. And many people like to point to President Trump. He used hateful, derogatory language to demonize and dehumanize the migrants. The guy down there at the bottom, the Border Patrol agent, used to be my neighbor. Cruel and barbaric policies that cage children, separate families, use Title 42, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, and obscure public health policy to lock down the border. Can you imagine using a public health policy to enforce your immigration policies, making it impossible for migrants and asylum seekers to cross into the United States legally or illegally? So basically what we've done is criminalized poverty. The reality is that each president builds upon the bad policies of the others. And one of my key statements, if you take anything from this talk, is that our presidents build on bad policies of the other, and every single one of them has added more and more Border Patrol agents, more and more fence, more and more technology, and nobody has, and they continue to say that's the only resolution to our immigration. Nobody talks about, in fact, they won't let anybody talk about comprehensive immigration reform, which I believe could change everything, but we're so stuck on security. And so, President Clinton, anti-immigration policies, he started the Wall Project, more Border Patrol agents, and used the desert as a deterrent. Then came along President Bush. Right after 9/11, terrorist attacks, what do? You don't go after the country where the terrorists came from. You pick a country, and that's where you attack. So, war in the Middle East, creation of Homeland Security under his watch, and expansion of the Border Patrol. Then came along President Obama. We had great hopes in President Obama. But he had to try and win over conservatives. So he put 200 miles of border wall, deported over 800,000 migrants, and he grew to the Border Patrol to over 23,000 agents. So this is the best picture I could find of President Biden. In 2023, Customs and Border Protection have budgeted $17.5 billion each year, a little bit more. And you can see how the escalation just continues to grow each year of putting more and more money towards the Customs Border Protection. Congress has appropriated over $333 billion over the last 20 years for border security. And I think I speak as a border resident that we're sick and tired of being the scapegoat for the rest of the country. We're thrown under the bus every year, and more militarization is sent our way. Our communities are the safest in the country, and yet they keep throwing more militarization. But more than anything, we are disgusted at the lack of creativity by our politicians. 30 years and no new ideas, just the same thing, more money and security sent our way. This is Doris Meisner. She was the border, what was she? She was the INS commissioner. And she came up, well, they all came up with this idea. We'll push the migrants into the most difficult, dangerous parts of the desert where we can track them down or they will die. So that was one of the deterrent process of, if you can deter people, if you can say that the desert is so dangerous, nobody will come. Nobody will be that desperate to cross in the desert. And yet we find that they keep building on these bad policies. Operation Gatekeeper was, I believe, maybe it started in San Diego, building the wall, and then they'd place an agent. One, every half a mile they'd have an agent, every quarter of a mile. And you just stopped anything that came between you and the other agent. Operation Hold the Line was over in El Paso. Operation Streamline happened here in, it happened in about 5 ports around the country, around the border. We had probably the biggest court in Tucson, where they would take 70 migrants a day that they had just picked up out of the desert and begin the process of criminalizing them, sending them to detention centers, a deterrent. Go back home and tell everybody how dangerous it is that you had to spend time in a detention center. Separating families. Most of our presidents have somehow found a way to separate children. Even now, I'll get into that, there's the separation of families. The migrant protection protocols and Title 42 are all deterrent programs. The Biden administration goal, and we're in the midst of this right now, is what do you do? How do you enforce trying to slow the migration down? The goal is to divert as many people as possible from even attempting the journey north by giving them alternative routes into the United States and applying stiff consequences for those who still try to enter illegally. So Title 42, at midnight on the 11th, it dropped. Yesterday was the first day post Title 42. So I hope people can see this. This is post Title 42. I didn't get the post up there, but levy penalties from $60 to $250 and fines and 6 months to 2 years in prison for people that cross the border, not through the ports of entry, and so they'll be put into detention centers. Require, and I don't know where they're going to get the $50 to $250. Require migrants to apply for asylum in third country and prove that they were rejected. So, imagine this. Somebody coming up from Venezuela needs to ask for asylum first in Colombia. I don't know what the Colombian process is, but it usually is a year to 2. You have to be rejected, and then you have to go to the next country. And then, so they go to Panama, they've worked their way out. And all these countries, El Salvador, Guatemala, Panama, can't even protect their own citizens. And so people are fleeing because of the violence, and yet we're paying off these countries in Latin America to receive new asylums into their country. Require migrants to make an appointment through the CBP One phone app. And the number of appointments expanded from 800 to 1,000. And so here in Nogales, they were at about 40 appointments a day, and so they'll probably get another 10 now. There's huge problems with the CBP One app. It's a way to separate families. It takes an hour to get one person fill out the application for one person. If you're a family of 5 or 6, it's impossible to get all 5 or 6 people registered on the same day. And so a mother and a son might have to cross, and then a few more days later, or a week or 3 weeks later, the husband finally is able to get on the app and get a couple more of the family members. And so it really is a disaster. The other piece is that the CBP One app doesn't distinguish colors, and so people with darker skin color, the app just turns off. And so there's just enormous problems and frustrations with CBP One app. They're increasing agents, bringing in contractors, so the agents that are working in the office can be out in the field, and they're bringing 1,500 troops to support the Border Patrol. Increase capacity to detain migrants, so build more private prisons to detain more people. Build detention centers and increase deportation flights. They're increasing flights into Honduras, El Salvador, 2 or 3 planes a day now. And they have expanded. They are offering 30 humanitarian visas for Haitians, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, and Cubans, 30,000 per month for 2 years, and then they'll have to leave the country. So that's what's happening post Title 42. As you can see here, this is the death map. It's only up to 2021. We are right about here, and you can see all the deaths that happen right in our neighborhoods. Can you believe that? Did you know that many people have died in your backyard? People so close, and you didn't even know they were dying. They were too scared to come and knock on your doors. Good thing the Green Valley Council didn't see this.
Horrible, horrible.
But the reality is most people are too scared to knock on your door. They'll die before they'll knock on your door to ask for help. So this is our beautiful desert. Just absolutely gorgeous. And yet we are in the middle of a colossal crisis. Migrants say, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die trying to live. And so, what do you do when the Republicans and the Democrats have no creativity to resolve our problem and people are dying in your backyard? What we decided a long time ago is that the only thing a person of conscience or a person of faith can do is to actually find the people, be a presence in the desert and offer food, water, and medical care. And so we've been doing that aggressively, assertively. In many ways the Border Patrol wishes they were the only voice in the desert saying their truth. But I have to tell you, there's other truths, and we experience a completely different side of this story, the story of the migrant. And it's much different than what the Border Patrol would present. I believe it was probably the Border Patrol that talked with the Green Valley Coordinating Council and put out that letter. I wish they had come to us, because we would have said something like, what would you think of yourself fleeing terror and danger, your kids, somebody being murdered in front of your eyes, and as you're fleeing, would you want somebody to help you in your community?
What was the letter?
What?
What was the letter or something you said?
The Green Valley, there's a letter that went out by the Green Valley Council that went to all residents in Green Valley. Basically saying, don't approach anybody. There's going to be groups, there's going to be individuals coming through your community. Call 911. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't possibly contact law enforcement, but first, give somebody a cup of water. They've been out in the desert for 5 days. So we created a group called the Samaritans, and we carry water out into the deserts, and we're prepared for the long haul. We've been doing this for 23 years, and we will continue doing it for another 23, 25 years. Our Samaritan group, we put out water. We also are hiking the trails. We're also in vehicles that are out there in the desert we call them searches. We look for people in distress, and we find lots of people. We found 14 people yesterday that were needing food and water. They were right along the wall, and they were not wanting the Border Patrol to pick them up. We don't make decisions for people. I don't make decisions for the Border Patrol. We help them out as well. We give Border Patrol food and water when they need it. We've actually given them rides. Just in the last month, we gave a Border Patrol agent a ride. We're just there to bring some humanitarian care out there. So we're out there almost every day doing that important work. We are always, we start early and stay late, and so that's our key work. But we also work down in Nogales, Mexico as well. We work at what we call the Comodore with the Kino Border Initiative. Actually, we were doing the work there along the as people were deported. That's a lot of people get deported, and they're just kind of left there, and a lot of their health needs have not been taken care of. A lot of times they were picked up in the desert, and they weren't given any food, and so they're in pretty bad shape. And so we work with them. We used to wash their feet. We gave them medical care, and so that was always important work. Part of our project. We also work at the Decancini entrance into Mexico. That's where everybody's being deported now in the from the United States in our area. That's where they're deported, and so we have a group that is probably there 3 or 4 days a week giving support to the Mexican Red Cross and to also they work with the Mexican immigration because there's families being deported not that much in the middle of the night, but they really have nowhere to go, and they have no money, they have no supplies, so they try to get them to the resources that they need. Our group is about, I would say we have about 300 people on our list, but we probably have 150 people in our Green Valley Sahuarita Samaritan group that is out doing all kinds of things like that every day. So we are kind of under the Good Shepherd's 501c3, and so that's everything's licensed, like all the vehicles are licensed under the church, but we welcome everybody, and there's a lot of non-faith, there's a lot of agnostics. We love a good agnostic to go on a trip with us. They can talk some sense into us. But it's pretty rugged out there. I know we were out, I wish I had the pictures, because I did have some pictures of some of the folks that we found yesterday. All of them were men. The one group we found was 10 men from Sinaloa, and they were just fleeing difficult situations and trying to. They'll send money back, and for them, if they get caught, they'll probably be some of the folks that end up in detention. But as soon as they get released, they'll try again. That's their only hope. So the other project that we work quite a bit with, and I'll show you some pictures, is a shelter in Mexico. This is a shelter called Casa de la Misericordia de Todas las Naciones. It's the house of mercy for all nations. And so right now we have 10 countries that people that are there from 10 countries, and most of them are from Mexico. Guerrero. In fact, when I was there, one of the families, I was down there on Wednesday. I used to go back, no, I was down there on Thursday. I go down every week, and so Thursday we met a family from Guerrero who had left. You know, it was a family of 5. They had left, but they had left other family like parents and uncles and nephews, and so they fled. And the night before, so Wednesday night, the cartel came in and killed everybody in their family. So they were just devastated. And so people ask here in this country, you know, I see it on the news all the time, you know, why are people coming? Why can't they just stay where they're at? And that's really not an option when there's violence, when the cartel is saying, you know, give us your kids or we're gonna kill you. But most of the families are leaving because of their kids. The cartel wants their kids. They want their land. So that family just absolutely devastated. But another family at the shelter somehow was able to get on the CBP One app, and all 4 of them were going to be going into their appointment in the next couple days. So there's, you know, it's kind of, you're mixed with just harrowing stories of great sadness, and then you hear these stories of incredible joy that something good is finally happening. So anyways, we have between 120 to 150 people there at the shelter most days. They can stay there as long as their process takes. So some of them are there for 6 weeks. Some of them are there for 6 months or longer. During COVID, we had people there for 8, not one case of COVID in 18 months. At any rate, it's run by Sister Lika. She is a former Catholic nun, but still lives, I call her a free nun. She left her order and is just an incredible spark plug and has a beautiful smile. But she's a great organizer, and she's lived all over the world, and she has a great way of working with kids and everybody to, you know, you can imagine the trauma that people are having living together, 120, 130 people. And what she's done is create all sorts of opportunities. The migrants actually run the shelter. They do all the cooking, they do all the cleaning, they paint. There's always something that keeps them committed, or it builds community life. You contribute to something. And they're all excited to be doing things. There also is educational opportunities for everybody from babies to adults. These are the kids. There's an accredited school, from the Mexican government. The teachers are accredited, and so the kids come, they have classes. Here's some projects that they're doing. The Save the Children does projects down there with them. This is one of the women. That baby was born. I think we've had about 20 births at the shelter. The women know what to do. They know, coming from areas where there's not a lot of doctors, they know how to help each other out. This woman to the left and her child are going to be crossing right at the Deacon City for their credible fear interview. That's the first step in their asylum process. This is their lawyer. We have worked a lot with Justice for Our Neighbors, which is a project, a group of lawyers supported by the Methodist Church, and we work a lot with them. They come up to the shelter, as well as the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, HIAS, the oldest refugee organization in the world. So they help out. HIAS is really the key group of lawyers that we have up there right now.
And they have celebrations. We've had a lot of weddings up there. People need to get, couples often have children, but it costs money to get married, and so that often they're not married. But in order to cross together, we make sure they get married. So this was at Christmas time. This immigrant couple were Mary and Joseph, and we do a posada there. It's really beautiful. So there they are. This was very powerful because after the posada, all the people that were going to be at, it was a different time. In January 15th, a lot of the policies changed. The CBP went into place on January 15th. All these people were going to be crossing with their families, and so they got up and talked about what posada meant to them. And those of you that live at La Posada, what does it mean? The inn, a shelter. And so they were just talking about how much the shelter meant to them to be able to be in a safe place finally, and kind of get your feet underneath you, grounded before you cross. And these are all the kids out there. This is one of my brother-in-laws that came up from El Salvador he's an actor, and I love to see this picture. He was doing mime, and you can see all the faces of the kids as they're imagining a better world out there, and they're smiling and imagining and dreaming. So we believe that no one should die trying to feed their family.
We'll open the floor to questions,
Okay.
if that's okay. Just before we go, I want to explain the process of asking question. Keep it to a question. Keep it down to less than a minute. We want to get as many people as we can to speak. I saw Matthew's hand up first, and then second, and then third. Okay, Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for all the work that you do, and thanks to all the people that you work with. Let them know that we all appreciate it.
Yes.
I'm the chair of the Democratic Legislative District 19 and past president of Green Valley Dems. And what comes up for me in the question about creative solutions is to have creative solutions, we have to elect creative people. And what I want to know is what can you see as far as your group and your arena of operation? Where can you find someone to run for office that has those creative solutions? Can you determine that there might be someone in your day-to-day life, in your activities, that might be someone who could dare to stand up and run for office? Because that's what we need. Someone like you are running for office.
I got too many balls in the air already.
I think we're just in we've been in a really bad moment in history. My hope really is that we're going to move through this, and that better angels will appear, and we'll be able to see a way forward. But I don't know of people that want to step into that arena right now, because it's just so brutal. And I wish I had somebody that I could say, hey, here's the perfect person. But I don't. They would have surfaced long before I would have thought of it.
And that's a question not only just for Randy, but it's a question for everybody in the room. If you know somebody, ask Matthew. Come and talk to me. We need somebody that really can work to end this problem and end this crisis.
Is that district Sahuarita as well?
No, that's
No.
actually 21. We're in 19. We're the whole of southeast
Okay.
Arizona.
And that's the state district?
Legislative district, right, which is part of the state legislative district.
Yeah,
All right.
we need at least one more. If we had one more, we could tip it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
one more is all we
Yeah.
need to tip.
And we need, we do. We need people who are willing to step up and do it. And they would get lots and lots of support.
Yeah.
But we just need somebody who's
step up.
willing to step up and,
All right.
and do it.
I'm surveying the crowd here.
Here we go.
The only other thing I would say, and this is slightly building on that, Mark Kelly is, doing the best he can. I mean, I've been disappointed, but I realize the reality he's in, and he will stand up for us. He will talk for us. We're getting, the Border Patrol right now has put Arizona no trespassing signs for 20 miles along the border on the wall, and they arrested one of our volunteers, and they are threatening that they're gonna. That's why I was out there yesterday, and we had an attorney out there with us as well. We also had Green Valley News out there. They cannot enforce an Arizona statute, and yet they still arrested one of our people, took him into detention, and when the Pima County attorney called and said, "What are you doing? You got to release that person," they dumped her at the Circle K across from the Border Patrol's headquarters in Tucson. Mark Kelly, at least, is willing to talk to us about those things and try and work with the Border Patrol. So we do have a meeting set up with the U.S. Attorney for Arizona, the Pima County Attorney, and the Chief of the Border Patrol in the Tucson sector.
Okay,
The
right here,
question was over here.
the lady in the pink, yes.
We saw the money come to support Samaritans and the trucks and the Commodore.
Yeah, that's a good question. Who knows? We have no idea where to run our operation is about $60,000 to $75,000 a year, and we always get it. We just don't know where it's going to come from. I talk a lot. A number of people talk in their communities when they go up north. We have churches, individuals all across the country that are willing to support us, send $1,000, $100. Some people pledge to the Samaritans. It really is. I mean, we are just like scrappy and assertive, and some of the people that are out there are just the salt of the earth, doing what they really are passionate about.
Do you have a website?
We do have a website. It's GVS. If you look under GVS Samaritans, you'll find it somewhere.
Green Valley Salarita Samaritans.
Yeah.
Are you aware that on the day of the election, when they announced that the immigration was a 25-year height, that it was about the same level as the last year of the Bush administration, and that we now have 4 times as many agents, and agents are always rated on how many contacts they have, not actually illegals, but contacts they have. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
And the Mexican population is up 20%.
The Mexican population contacts of the Border Patrol?
No, the population. One would
Mexico
expect,
City, Mexico.
one would expect with all those more agents, all that more population, that immigration is going to be higher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all I can say is I've been doing this for 23 years, and at that time there were maybe a couple million
or 2 or 3 million, and now there's probably close to 20 million undocumented migrants in this country, and that's after we spent $17 billion a year. Most businesses, if they did as well as the Border Patrol have done over the last 25 years, I don't know if they'd be in business, would they? They've pretty much failed. The other challenge, though, is, and this is a really important piece, is that Biden's chief of the Border Patrol was basically removed. What was his name? From Tucson. Not
Mayorkas current.
It was Chris. Oh yeah, Chris Maness. There's nobody really running the Border Patrol right now, and the reason nobody's running the Border Patrol is that just before Trump left office, he increased the number of agents that are working solely on Border Patrol union work. And so the Border Patrol union is basically controlling the Border Patrol right now. All the cartels are complicated. Just like, the mafia was complicated. How do you ever get rid of them and pull them out? The cartel really exists because, and they've expanded. They used to only be into drugs, but now they're into people smuggling. They're all into all sorts of businesses in Mexico. And the reason they've been able to do that, I believe, is because of our policies. Once you build up all these walls, all these agents, then you need very skilled people to get people across the border. And the cartel, so we run into cartel people. They're very low level. They're just watching the wall, or they're, a smuggler bringing a group. You never really know which one's the smuggler, but there's always one of them's there. They're harmless to us. They all need water. We give them water. We don't know who is who. I don't know how you get rid of them, because they're so intricately connected to, they got so much money. How do you remove that? I don't know. I know in El Salvador, and they have it's a challenging situation there, but their president has really cracked down on the gangs, and he has 65,000 gang members in jail after a year and 4 months. He's pretty much shut the gangs out of El Salvador. There's a problem, though. Now you have 65,000 people in prison. How do you rehabilitate? They're not going to rehabilitate 65,000 people.
We got a question in the back.
Our legal strategy in this particular moment is our attorneys are saying, I want you out there, and I want them to stop you. I want them to take you into custody, because they have no legal right to do that. And if we get enough people that they've arrested falsely, enough people, and basically harassed us, that's a good case. So she's building that case, and that's why she was out there yesterday.
Pima County Attorney? Who was there with you?
Margot
is, in fact, there's a petition at our headquarters. Please sign it. It's Justice for All. It's to provide Margot with better assistance. So please, the petition is back there, but I don't have the literature, so please sign it if you would, please.
Yeah.
We have room for about 2 more questions. I saw some right here. And then I'll get you.
Sure, I want
And
to
then
hear
you're
about
third.
yesterday, after Title 42, and because there's been this fear-mongering about millions of people walking through the desert. So what was your impression yesterday?
So my impression yesterday was that there was nothing new. We found 14 people. We didn't see one Border Patrol agent along the wall. We only saw them on Arabaca Road. no border patrol on 286, which is the road that runs from Sassabay up to 3 Points. So I think, my own opinion is that this is a pretty small area, and there's lots of activists here. There's our group, there's lots of other people. What's happening in El Paso or at Juarez and Tijuana is really where the crisis is. And I was in Mexico on Thursday, and I talked to the organization. Well, it was the United Nations folks were there that work with immigration, and basically there's just 2 or 3 places where the migrants are. In El Paso, they're jumping the wall. There's 2 walls, and so they're basically jumping one wall and then staying in that area between the 2 walls. The same thing is happening over in Tijuana area. My sense of it is that the cartels are the ones that are really directing where people are going, and so they're pushing people over to Tijuana and to El Paso.
And El Paso's, Juarez is one of the largest cities in Mexico, so if they're forced back across, they do have a city to revert, and same in Tijuana.
It's a dangerous city.
It's a dangerous city.
Yeah.
And one time it was the #1 dangerous city in the world.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous place.
Carol?
Yeah, I had a question. I was watching the news yesterday, and everybody's talking about a comprehensive immigration package.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the commentators said, you know what, maybe we need to get more creative and just get something passed, maybe one law or one bill, and do it that way rather than try to get a big thing that they're going to throw half of it out anyhow. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the easiest one that everybody agrees with is the Dreamers. Why can't they legalize? I have a nephew that's a nurse, an emergency room nurse in Texas, and really skilled, and he's a dreamer. Why wouldn't you want that in your country? Why wouldn't you want them to be legalized? And those are the easy ones. I kind of want the hard ones. I personally believe that we create our prisoners by not educating them. We've created this situation in Latin America by exploiting and harnessing these economies 100 years ago. People are only following what has been stolen from them, and the menial people that are pulled into the cartel really have no choice. So to badmouth the cartel is really sometimes, I know they're bad, but we created it. We're part of this problem. Our lifestyle supports is built on cheap, exploited labor. Yeah.
Yes, and
Steve.
on that line, and the emergency room nurse, nephew, I think perhaps one of the things we can do is, first of all, realize, and I read the other day, apparently Arizona is a major funnel for fentanyl.
Yeah.
Okay, and the reason the fentanyl is coming in is we are the customers. Okay, so it isn't just a problem of immigration, because we do need those people, but at the same time we also need those people, and I'm speaking to the choir here, in the nursing homes and skilled nursing facilities, the janitors, the people who bring us our coffee, etc., etc. And until we start, I think, turning it toward an economic argument, okay? They work in food processing plants. They pick the onions and the vegetables. You start to ask people questions when they approach you and say, we've got to shut down the border. And say, well, okay, who's going to take care of me in the nursing home? Am I going to be paying $3 for the tomatoes? Because I'm not going to pick tomatoes.
As we're fastly approaching zero unemployment, we need them more than they need us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I've got room for one more question after you reply.
Can you answer that?
Yeah, that's why I said.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do realize it's we're living on the backs of exploitation and the cheap labor. And, you know, the fentanyl situation is a serious situation. But there again, it's happened because our, you know, all of the agents are looking for big loads. What do? You make high potent drugs that can be smaller and smaller, and you can more and more import it easier. The other issue is, and this is the bigger issue that I think we as a country need to deal with. Why does this country consume more drugs than anywhere else in the world? And what is it about our life in this country that we want to numb ourselves and literally kill ourselves? Why do we do what's happening in this country? It's a spiritual issue of why do we not want to live fully is the question, or it is a question. I don't have an answer. I just know that you know, why don't we really live life to the fullest rather than try and numb it?
It's a good question we need to be asked.
Yeah, you've got to have more stuff.
Last question is in the back, and that's it.
Well, it's because of the community organizing. We've been organizing for, you know, Tucson's been organizing around this issue for the last 10 years. And so, you know, but they do need lots of volunteers. People are getting burnt out. And surprisingly, the majority of the people that are at Casa Olitas right now are from India. And Mauritania.
See me before you leave. I want to talk a little bit more about it.
All right.
We help.
Hey, one last thing.
Okay.
I have a leading expert coming from Italy. He's a good friend of mine, Paolo Nasso. He's been working throughout Europe on they have huge immigration issues as well. And so he'll be here, and he'll be giving a forum at 9 o'clock on Sunday, the 21st at the Good Shepherd. If people want to come and hear a leading voice from Italy and Europe talking about their situation over there.
So thank you all for coming. We appreciate you all being here.